All right, we are back. I guess we had an audio issue, but apparently we have hopefully fixed it. If you're watching, let us know. Send us messages. We can actually see them on the screen. Christopher. Yeah, that's pretty much what I heard. Chris is now being the... Oh, it could be just Chris's voice. That's what people have been complaining about the whole time.
Yeah.
So back to the focus on the family. We were talking with Mike about, what it's like. We all come from different backgrounds. Chris came from a split family. I was raised by two-parent household. You were split family.
Yeah.
And before, Chris was talking about, what he had to deal with growing up, basically as a latchkey kid, kind of doing his own thing, having to take care of himself for quite a bit of the day. I was a lot different. Probably the only reason why I'm not, juvenile delinquent or wasn't a juvenile delinquent is I, my parents kind of kept on me. My mom was volunteering at the school all the time. I can remember one day sitting on the dean's bench and going, oh my gosh, my mom has to walk down this hallway in about 15 minutes. I need to get into the dean's office before my mom walks down. Didn't make it. Like, she walked past the hallway and then slowly did the back up and looked, and she's like, why are you on the dean's bench? I was like, so what had happened was usually involved telling jokes, making people laugh.
Someone stole your Star Wars Chewbacca or something, and you got mad. Punched him in the arm.
Shut your face. Look.
Did they break your Millennial Falcon?
Oh my gosh. You're such a hater on the Star Wars.
Is that what happened?
Not what happened.
You're avoiding the question.
That is not what happened on that occasion, Christopher. That is not what happened.
That was a few days later.
That was a few days later. That was, things happen. What about growing up for you? You talked about, kind of doing your own thing, having to get rides to sporting practices. Yeah. And I know you grew up playing ball.
Yeah. Played baseball for 11 years.
Gotcha. Now, where'd you grow up at?
That was part of my life. I've lived everywhere from Melbourne to Titusville. Every city in between, pretty much. So, my heart's always been in Cocoa Beach. I always drop back to the beach, So that's where I'm at now, and it's where I've always ended up. But, my mom would rent, as we were growing up and being a single mother, like, we'd move, and if she found a relationship or someone that she's into, we'd move in, there after a while, and then kind of get cozied in, and if it didn't work out, then it was sort of on to the next, and that's just life, sometimes that happens. So
did your mom date?
Yeah, a couple guys. I tried to fight one. I got beat up by another one.
Wow.
So yeah, it was.
It's never that heavy for me.
Yeah, no.
Look, Mike almost just reached over and touched your shoulder. Chris does not like to be touched by that.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah, he's like,
it depends on the moment.
So
we get some sophisticated lounge jams.
I was about to say that. You gotta put on your sophisticated lounge jams. We'll start doing this, and Chris will open up more. But when we talk about this stuff, there's a lot of people who are in the same situation. I mean, it's not just what happened, 20 years ago when we were growing up. It's still ongoing today. I mean, coaching baseball for Gabriel, seeing a lot of the families that sometimes there's no parents in the picture. They're being raised by grandma or grandpa, being brought to games. It's to see the impact that has. There's one of the students in my class right now. All of his kids are grown, and he still coaches. He still coaches basketball because he's like, sometimes you're it. And I couldn't leave the kids behind, even though they're not his mentality was I may be the only guy they ever see, growing up. So he continues to coach. I mean, me, as soon as Gabriel got out, was a better baseball player than I ever was like, you are beyond my skills, kid. You got to go on to travel ball and play with some coaches that know what they're doing.
Again, how long did that really take, though? I mean, once he actually could
T-ball.
throw the ball from
right after
it was
T-ball.
right around T-ball,
As soon as he can hit a ball in the air.
Yeah, no, I went.
it.
Oh, yeah, exactly. As soon
When you got the coach pitch, they said, Steve, you got to be able to make the plate first. And so that's when you just stepped away.
Yeah, pretty much. When they said, yeah, I'll tell you some other stories. But no, it's different how things have transitioned. But there's a lot of people just in the same situations. I think, you're. People always think like tattoo guys or cops are like super hardcore, they don't need anybody, whatever. But I mean, we're all in different relationships, been in different relationships over time. Jesse's in a relationship, right?
Married? Going on 4 years?
Look at that, married, going on 4 years. You made sure you noted that. Look, what's your name? Aggie. That's right, Aggie. He does know. He does know exactly the date of your engagement and everything else.
Yeah, next time you're going to pop questions like that, can you give a little heads up so I have a better answer? I'm going to be in a lot of trouble when I get home.
Don't pin him in the corner.
No. Here's the problem with Chris. Like, I'll have to give him all the crib notes before, and he'll have them all written on his forearm like a math test. And
Right.
like 2 plus 2 is 4. Like that's how long I've been married. You know, Chris is good about lifting things up, and putting things down. So speaking of things like that, being a tattoo artist, you have seen quality work and you have seen terrible work, correct?
Yeah.
Chris, can you please raise your right sleeve?
What do we got here?
This is Anorexia the Dragon.
Oh.
Yeah.
I guess if it had a name, that would be it.
That would be it.
You know,
yeah, no, make sure you get it on.
There you go. A lot of traditional dragons are long and narrow. So I mean,
it's not fire on the tails normally.
It's not too bad.
Pretty accurate, yeah.
It's not too bad.
Yeah, holding a magical orb.
Where's his other arm? Does he only have one arm?
Yeah, he's going through some stuff.
No way, he doesn't have another arm up here. He's got one front arm. So he's the three-legged dragon.
So I've had this thing now for 20 years, and that is the first time I've ever noticed.
He never knew for 20 years that he had a three-legged dragon.
That is an impression.
Well, there it is, sir.
Yeah.
Do you notice the mystical smoke emitting from the tail? I mean,
yeah, because there's a fire on the tail, bro.
But it's not a normal smoke that is coming off that. That is a mystical smoke because it's in a spiral.
Right.
It's like a big cinnamon bun on your bicep.
Right.
Yeah, they went for like a wind bar, cloud bar thing.
So I was 18, and I thought, man, my first tattoo, I'm going to get a Chinese dragon. I don't know why. And so I went and saw a guy, and he's like, yeah, I'll do it tomorrow. I'm like, all right, cool. So I show up, and he does all the outline, and he starts coloring it, and he's taking his breaks. And on one of the breaks, I go out back, and he's smoking a bowl. He's like, oh, dude, I hope you don't mind if I smoke some weed during this. And I'm like, I'm going to assume you've been doing it the whole time, so I guess there's no point in saying no now.
That's where we got the idea of the mystical smoke.
Right.
That's what it was. It was like, I've been burning one down, and I think I'm going to set this tail on fire and put some mystical smoke.
Hey, man, some of the best tattoo artists I've ever met in my life are...
I got
are stoned the whole time.
But that one was...
I can't do it, though. I get spaced out a little bit.
I want to get it covered up. My wife will not allow me to do that because she wants to remind my kids, hey, look, the thing... And I kind of agree with her. The choices you make when you're 18, they stick with you forever. So now, 21 years later, I have to explain to people why I have a very skinny, blue, mystical Chinese dragon that apparently only has 3 arms.
It's pretty light, though, man. We could cover that thing right up.
You hear that?
You don't need no laser or nothing.
Now, Nora, think about this, though. Yeah, there's things you can screw up on when you're 18 years old, like dropping out of college. But then one day when you're 40 and you decide you want to go back to college, you can do that.
Right.
And that's this tattoo. This is going back to college. That thing needs to get help. All right,
can we move on to something else now? Can we stop making fun
Spotlight off of my three-legged dragon.
I mean, but it always cracks me up because Chris is gone and got some good work done, and then there's that, and I get the whole point behind it, but there's a time in your life of redemption, my friend.
I know.
And this is it. Confess your sins and move forward.
Okay, so the other thing I've learned is, for me anyway, when I get a tattoo, I'll make sure it's something that I want and it's got some sort of meaning. So even if we were to cover it up at this point right now, there's nothing I'm like, man, I really want to get covered up. So for now,
it's not hurting anything.
Mystical dragon, right?
Mystical three-legged dragon. That's an important note that you should
I
really hold on to now that you know that.
Right. God, it just gets worse.
I know. Your attention to detail is great.
We'll go home and draw on a 4th arm.
Yeah, Trent, get over here. Draw on a 4th arm for this thing. I mean, you got to figure your child's how old? How's Trent?
5.5.
5.5. He can definitely draw an arm on that. That would probably be better than the rest of the tattoo.
Yeah.
I believe it.
Now, being a tattoo artist, what is one of the worst things you got to deal with?
Worst things you got to deal with. It's really not all bad when you know how to talk to somebody, but sometimes you get put in a corner with individuals who may think they've got it all figured out, or they know what's best for them. And so when you try to introduce new ideas or your ideas on how to get something done, their stubbornness and you just trying to be like, listen, a frog is not going to cover the boulder you have with a handicapped fairy on top, you know, that's just sort of broken and looks really weird. It'd be like telling me that you want to cover this exactly with this same dragon, but like better.
With 4 legs.
With 4 legs.
Right.
Yeah. But like
not fire on the
but
tail.
I have to do different things in order to make that work. And they're like, but no, I don't want that. I want this. And then you sort of just gotta kind of be like, well, you know, maybe I'm not the one for you, you know. So I mean, it's really not that bad. I mean, there's some other things, you know, get like body odors.
Oh,
that's a big one.
Yeah,
that would
hygiene.
That's it. Hygiene's tough.
That's one you. Yeah, no matter how nice you are, you can't really overcome.
Yeah,
that,
no, and you know, and you can't. And the nicer there are, the harder it is to sort of
tell them they stink.
Let them know, right? You know, or volunteer to, you know, can I wash your foot? You know, with you know, like I'm gonna rub your foot down with alcohol. I know we're not tattooing your foot, but your foot is in my face. I've gloved someone's foot before.
Really?
I put because they didn't have socks on. They came in with sandals. They came in with like soggy, like wet sand. Like it was bad. It was a very pungent. And fortunately, it was someone that I had went to school with. You know, I wasn't like super tight friends, but like I was close enough that I could be like, hey, do you mind if I throw one of these gloves over your foot? And I'm sure it was extremely embarrassing, but problem solved. You know.
Oh my gosh! Yeah, I didn't
really
think
weird.
about that aspect.
No, I have, because I know when I got my calf done, that was one of the things I went and I made sure my feet were clean.
Got a pedicure?
Because they were well,
Well,
I'm not Steve.
But that, and the other thing too is Jason Tucker would have been like, "Really,
Right.
guy, you're gonna come in here with this stink foot right now?"
Yeah, Jason and I are tight enough that he'd be like, "Dude, no, go home and wash your nasty feet."
So you're gonna love this. Can you please show him your forearm?
Yeah.
What does that say? What does that say?
Kinley.
Yep.
Yes, that is his child's name, which is a lovely thing.
Yeah.
You know, he did this all. Ask him about how far along he was into that.
Dude, we've already told this story on this podcast.
No,
Everybody knows this story. There's no.
Just tell him. Just tell him.
Just a brief.
Just a brief of it.
All right. So, it's my daughter when she was 5. Wrote her name.
Okay.
So I wanted to keep it. So I go to Jason and I say, "Hey, I want to get this." He's like, "All right, no problem." So he does the little, whatever, puts the outline on there. He does the Y, does the E, gets almost down to the L, and I look over at him and I'm like, "Dude, I don't feel so good." And he looks at me and I'm pale-faced white. He goes, "No, you look bad. You need to lay down, like now." And so I had to get up and go lay down on the. I'm glad you're putting me on your live feed too.
Yeah, you gotta. They gotta hear who's telling. The story,
and also,
I know where this is going.
Yes,
right?
and Chris is a power lifter, by the way. This is what gets me every time.
Right. So Jason had to move me from the chair and help me over to one of the tattoo tables, and I had to lay down for probably about 30 minutes and get my head straight again. And then I was like, "All right, we can finish this now." And so and Jason's such a great guy. I'm like, "Dude, does this happen kind of often?" He's like, "Yeah, man, all the time, and especially all the big dudes, you know." And as soon as I leave out of there, Steve's texting me. He's like, "Hey, Jason just said you bitched out and almost passed out in the tattoo shop." And yeah,
that was like my favorite part. Like I thought Jason was joking with me until like he's like, "Nah, this guy's curled up on my table right now."
No, it was bad.
Yeah, and that's fairly common.
Yeah,
all the time.
That was the first tattoo I had gotten since this one. So this one I was 18. That one I got at 35 or so, 36. Mm-hmm. And so, in your head, you're thinking, "Oh, yeah, it's needles." You forget that it doesn't hurt. It's just a different sort of feeling. So I think I just worked myself up so much in my head that this was going to hurt.
Yeah.
And I was ready for it. I wasn't breathing. I wasn't doing anything. Because in everything else he's ever done, I just sat through there and powered through it and got done with it.
Yeah.
But tell him what you do. You bring sandwiches with you.
Yeah, I'll bring peanut butter and jelly sandwiches.
Of course.
You got to make sure you got to be hydrated.
As soon as he starts to feel weak, he starts eating peanut butter and jelly
No,
sandwiches.
I encourage you get a full meal before you come get tattooed. You bring water. You stay hydrated. Hydrating before tattoos, like a good, few days before, just drinking as much water as possible, making the skin supple, shaving the area. There's a lot of things that people like. I want to put out like a little pamphlet that basically is your tattoo prep guide, and it'll keep people from passing out on a regular basis because of blood sugar drops and things like that. And it's an embarrassing thing, because sometimes, sometimes, I don't know. Some people just ride it and they're like, I fell out, whatever.
What are you going to do? You can't.
I'm human or whatever.
Yeah.
But
I always go in there with the mindset that I'm about to get stabbed with a needle for a while. So, yeah, just,
embrace
it. Just take it like a champ and go, So you never know. Like, that's the thing, too, is depending on the body part, it's got different feelings.
I've felt lightheaded before. I've definitely This was actually not as bad as you would think. My hand was one of the worst.
I've heard the hand's bad.
The hand was tough, and all around, like the knuckles and the outside of the hand was I was like, he's here, and I'm just like laid back and just turned over like, are you done? It was terrible.
See, so look, everybody, even the tattoo artists will say, are you done?
I hate getting tattooed. I hate it. And I'll tell you what, every time that I get a tattoo too, and we have fellow artists there at the shop that say the same thing, is when we get tattooed and then we go to tattoo somebody, whether the same day or the next day, we're always like, I'm sorry. Because I just felt this again yesterday. I know what we're doing to you, and I always seem to forget until I'm back in it.
Well, that's what gets people to come back. They're like, oh yeah, I got to have another one, and then they're like, oh yeah, I remember this feeling now.
Yeah, this stings. Now it burns, and now I just whatever.
What cracks me up is
then you get halfway through, and you're like, man, I don't know if I guess I gotta finish this, because if not, I'm gonna have a half-done blue dragon on my arm, which might have been better than.
Thank God he didn't make it at full weight. I mean, if he would have made it a normal weight dragon, we would have been down.
Yeah. Well, then it might have been easier just to add that on the leg. It wouldn't have been so bad.
What always cracked me up before I had a tattoo? Because I didn't get my first tattoo till I was in my late 20s. And somebody was like, oh, bro, it's nothing. No pain at all. And then I finally got one. I remember going over there, and I got the whole back of my calf done. And I remember going to my artist, and he looks at me. He's like, your first tattoo, and you're going to do the whole back of your calf? And I was like, yeah. And he's like, good luck. And I was like, oh, well, that doesn't sound good. About 4 hours into it, I was like, man, this is kind of stinging a little bit. And then he's like, we got to go back in with the white and touch it up. And that's when that's when the crippler comes in. You're like, okay, let me just grab this table a little harder. But I remember going back to my buddies who were like, oh no, they're nothing. They were like, oh, you finally got your first tattoo? And I was like, you guys said it didn't even hurt. And they're like, we lie. That's the only way we get people to go get tattoos, And I was like, oh, try to make ourselves look tougher, I guess. I don't know, whatever. But
yeah, we got someone on my live that just commented, top of the feet. Ouch. The feet really hurt. Now, I don't have my feet tattooed, actually, and I've avoided it up to this point because my feet are so sensitive. Like, I've done the pedicure thing, and I've had, even my chick or whatever, just massage my feet and whatever. I will kick you in the face if you touch my feet. So they're super sensitive. So like I'm nervous that if I get my foot tattooed, I'm just gonna cry like a baby.
Yeah. I'm too ticklish on my feet. I think
plus, you get like hobbit feet. You don't want to get those hobbit feet.
What's wrong with my feet? You still shop in the kids section. You're gonna make fun of my feet.
Oh,
my son has those.
Are those hand-me-downs from Gabby?
Oh, my feelings are not hurt at all.
Yeah.
But
tattoos hurt. I have unfinished tattoos because they hurt.
Really?
Yeah, I have a large rib piece that is unfinished, and I make other excuses, but really that's the truth. On the radio, I'm saying that. I'm just being a bitch.
Yeah. Well, I'll call him out. Jeff Bellinger, if you're paying attention right now. Jeff Bellinger has this huge piece on his back.
Yeah.
And it is awesome. And it is all outline. And I keep asking him when he's going to do it. He's like, ugh. It was terrible. The outline was terrible because it was like, super thick lines on the sides. And he was like, it was terrible. So he's probably had it for several years now. Now his excuse is he's got to get back in shape so that it looks good.
Right.
Oh, I've used that one.
Yeah.
I've used that one. I actually still ride that one. That one's a good one. Yeah, because, I'm getting my beach body back on because, I want to show this big, nice piece off.
Yeah.
If it looks really good, then,
Do you wear a shirt at the beach?
No.
I do.
I mean, I'm not that bad.
I wear a rash guard.
Oh, because you surf?
Well, but here's the thing. If you wear a rash guard, I don't look like the fat kid at the beach in a t-shirt.
Because it sucks it in. It's like Spanx.
Yeah, exactly.
It's Spanx for men.
It's actually not a rash guard. It was one of those neoprene undershirt things that businessmen buy before they go to the conference, so they can look really,
that's
really
it.
slender.
I have trouble breathing, and sometimes I get lightheaded, but it's okay. It's okay.
It's like a man corset.
It is. This is a man corset. Look, Jesse. Look, Jesse has a collection at the house. He's okay with it. But it's interesting. We talk about the whole tattoo aspect and the family aspect of it, and the humanizing it. I mean, you've been doing it for all these years now. It's put food on the table for you. It's put food on the table for your family.
Yeah.
You're not out committing crimes at 3:00 in the morning. Well,
that you know of.
That I know of. I mean,
no, yeah, man.
It is a reality that you as a single dad, anybody who's a single dad, they go to work, they put food on the table for their family. Mm-hmm. There's a big thing about being involved in your children's lives, and you're huge with that. Which is great. There's a lot of people, men and women, who just disappear.
Yeah.
And after the separation happens, they're like, I don't even want to deal with that.
Yeah.
I never understood how that happens.
I can't grasp that either.
Yeah, when my daughter was born, right up to it, I still was a knucklehead, and then, but it's like the moment she's born, some switch just gets flipped on, and you're like, all right, this is the most important thing I've ever done.
It's called love.
Right.
That's literally, like, I always explain that, like, I never knew what actual, like, the feeling and the true definition of love until I held my kid for the first time, and that was like the biggest, most monumental moment of my life.
No, absolutely. And there's a whole thought process on love, and a lot of people always look at love like it's an emotion, but it's not an emotion. It's an act. It's that holding that child, or whatever you put into it. But it is more than just the idea of love. That's why kids say, I'm in love. They're not in love with their girlfriend. They're in that,
just attracted to her.
Yeah.
Right.
That love is totally different, and it is the act. It is the act of caring and nurturing. And, I remember for a while you were living down in Melbourne, your kids were living in Mims. And that's a long ride back and forth to go, to do that. But you were always up there taking pictures with your kids and the T-ball stuff. And, but that's going out of the way. There's a lot of people, men and women, who don't do that. They separate. Whatever happens, whoever gets custody of the kids, that's slowly but surely it weans off. I can say that, fortunately for Maria and I, her ex's family, over the years we're awesome. Like, we go on one trip a year as a family together. We go wherever, condo to whatever area, and we're always there for Gabriel. Gabriel's 16 now, so I mean, when it came to getting him a car, it was teamwork to do that. It's always been a combination of things. His grandmother and his grandfather, who passed away last year, super huge impacts on his life. So to get to that point where, and there's actually an old poem from Edgar Allan Poe where it says that not my earthly lot has little of earth in it, that years of love have been forgotten, the hatred of a minute. And I always thought about that, because that's usually what happens, is like when people break up, they have that hatred for a minute, but they were together, they loved each other at some point in order to create this. And then as soon as something happens, now there's absolute hate. But you still have this creation, you still have that person that you have to work with.
Share that forever.
Yeah. I mean, they say, I got to deal with it till I'm 18. No, you don't. I mean, that kid's going to grow up. He's going to get married. You're going to be at the wedding. You're going to be at his college. He's going to, and he has a child. Everybody's going to be there. It's not something that just happens and goes away.
No.
And that's the big thing, is like, you look at how many people just disappear. They just disappear out of the picture.
Yeah. And I just don't, I don't understand how that, and what goes on in their minds to be able to do that. I just.
And sort of recapping, like we were talking about earlier, like we both kind of come from a little bit of what you considered a broken home. I don't call it a broken home. I mean, I don't know. Everybody's like, oh, you come from a broken home. It's like, no, it's not broken. There's love there.
Yeah, I mean,
whatever.
My mom and dad still both loved me. They just didn't love each other anymore. So they, made the decision to move on from each other.
But growing up in that, and not having that one household, or at least for me, I didn't have that one house to just grow up my whole life and know all the same neighborhood kids and kind of develop that what we'd call like that normal childhood, and you have those lifelong friends and all that stuff. Being in that position is what's driven me to try to create that for my kids.
Absolutely.
And right now I'm in the position where I'm 35. Like I don't own a house yet. I'm in the market. I'm going to be buying a house hopefully in the next couple of years. Do I have a nice little place? A little condo by the beach. My kids have anything and everything that they want. Yes, my schedule interferes with like how much I get to spend time with them. People don't really understand that a lot, and sometimes not to come completely out or to make them seem bad. They're both their mothers are great human beings. We just different types of people. We live different lives, but they often take the stabs at my schedule. You do what you do. And because you have your schedule, you're not able to, you could see your kid more. You could. I'm like, but no, I can't. I can't, because even when I'm just getting up, they're going to school.
Right.
I get home at 10 p.m. I want to wind down for an hour or two. And then it's already midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning. I want to get a few hours of sleep. So like, it doesn't work that way. And if they're on opposite ends of the county,
Absolutely, especially when you don't live together. I don't think people understand just the simple separation point of not living together and how difficult it is to get places and do things. Because if look at Maria's ex lives in Orlando. Mm-hmm. When he comes over to Gabriel's baseball games, when his family comes over to Gabriel's baseball games, they're adjusting everything. They have 3 kids of their own over there with his new wife. And they want to be supportive, so they all load up. They all come over. They watch the game. But that is like planning to go to Disney for them. I mean, they have to pack up. They have to do this. They have to figure out their work schedules. They have to. So the effort that they put into their relationship is more than I think what me and Maria have to do, because we come home. Gabriel, what are you doing right now? Okay, you want to hang out? Yeah, sure. It's not that simple when you don't live in the same house. You got to call. Hey, are you available? Is he available? Especially when they're little. Yeah. It's a lot different.
I mean, you could live right down the street and it could still be that difficult just because of opposing schedules and different lifestyles. So, I mean, it's tough, but I make it work, and despite what they say, I know I'm doing my best to be the best possible father I can. And I love my kids. I'll do anything for them. And I do try to be a better artist and really push myself and just be the best dad I can.
But I think that's everybody. I mean, I should say everybody in this room anyway. Right. Yeah. I know what Chris does. I mean, Chris is back in school, because he's getting his education, but that's a good thing for his kids to see. I went back to school to get my college degree as an adult. My kids watched me on Sunday all day from noon until 4 or 5 o'clock, doing my homework, getting my stuff done, trying to, hey, you guys are lucky. You have prepaid college. Yeah. I had prepaid college. So me being able to go do all those things and show them, hey, I went to school. I got my master's degree. You guys go do it too, but do it before you got 2 kids sitting at home, because that's cutting your time down a lot between baseball and everything else. I mean, I know you with your kids, football and cheerleading. I mean, you're adjusting your schedule all the time to go get where you got to go. You have a good work schedule right now, thankfully, but it's hard, especially. I know a lot of deputies work 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. Right. When is baseball practice? When are baseball games? I'm one of those guys that with anybody who works for me, if you come to me and say, hey, my kid has a baseball game from 5 to 7, you mind if I come in an hour late? No, go to your kid's baseball game, family first. Yeah. Because I believe mental health at the home is what keeps people together. If you start to separate that time, that's where divorces come in. That's where distance is created, all that stuff. I mean, some of it is because of my own personal experiences in life and what I see the divorce rate in law enforcement all the time. I mean, they say 50% of the country gets divorced, and then they say 50% of that are law enforcement. It's like, it's crazy, But, with developing into good family units, I think, you hit on the key. There's a lot of us that had either a rough childhood or had some kind of childhood where they're like, hey, this is not what I want for my kids. How do I break that cycle, or how do I move into this, or how do I move into that? I was talking to somebody the other day, and the big thing they were excited about was, I moved into my own place and my kid finally has their own room.
Oh yeah, that's huge.
It's huge, but that was never something I ever had to think about. And here I am 40 years old and somebody says that and I was like, that is huge. That is huge. You don't really think about that. But there's a lot of people out there that are in the exact same situation as you were growing up. You were growing up. I was growing up.
Or way worse. Yeah. Or better off. I mean, yeah, we're all just different, come from different backgrounds and deal with, I guess, the cards that were dealt, and most of us play our lives out according to how we were raised.
No, I remember one day we were doing a search warrant on a house, and there was a dude in there. He was 18. He was like 3 months away from shipping out. He was joining the military, and when we were interviewing him, he was like, "Here's the deal. I leave in 3 months. I stay in my room. I play my video games. I stay out of everybody else's business. What they do in this house is what they do in this house. I just want out, and the only way I'm getting out is if I join the military." And like that was that dude's reality. Like his only way out was to join the military. And he goes, "I don't want to be in any trouble. My name's already on paperwork. If they did something, they did something, but nothing has to do with me." And he legitimately, nothing had to do with him. But that was his big thing. He's like, "I am almost gone. I've been 18 years here. I have 3 months before I leave." And but it was that was just a very real statement. From a kid who's just turned 18 years old. There's a lot of people that live that life. It's funny because I always, around Valentine's Day, you start to watch the Facebook posts, and there's either people being like, "Can we just skip it this year?" or the typical...
we should skip it every year. It's a freaking made-up holiday, and it's garbage.
He's that guy that just made that post.
You are.
You were reading his post verbatim.
So I have to show my love and affection for my wife on February 14th. Do I not have to do it the other 364 days a year? Am I cool? Do I get days off then?
You made me choke. Now, here's the deal. I 100% agree with you. Valentine's Day is obviously the symbol of love or whatever, but it is not the... It seems like people turn it into that one day of the year that I have to profess my love to somebody or whatever.
Right. So 1-800-Flowers and Hallmark and edible arrangements can make a crap load of money off of it.
$7 cards. $7 card. Now my wife, I love my wife because she's like, "You see how much those Hallmark cards cost? That's like $7.50. We can go out to dinner." Like that's her mindset.
Where are you going out to dinner for $7.50?
Oh, no, that's the appetizer, Chris. That's just the appetizer.
Oh, okay. Even then,
most
appetizers are like $11.
Yeah, I know.
Are you taking her to Zaxby's?
You know what a foodie I am. We're definitely not going to Zaxby's for Valentine's Day dinner. But you think about it. I think we do. We turn love into certain days. It's the same reason why. I'm going to use you as an example, but this is never going to happen. If you were like, "Hey, I really like this," and I saw it, and I was like, "Hey, you know what? I'll just pick that up for Chris." Like something I see. There was a Sasquatch shirt, and I was like, "You know what? Chris loves Sasquatch. Let me buy the shirt for him."
I would think that's very sweet.
You would think that's very sweet, but it wouldn't have to be on Christmas or whatever. It'd just be like, "Hey, I'm thinking of this. Right. This is something the dude likes." But I think we get to the focus where you're buying flowers on birthdays, you're buying flowers on Christmas, or not Christmas, birthdays, Valentine's Day. Those are the times you do anniversaries. But realistically, we talked about the whole concept of love and what love is, and it's that revolving. Hey, I'm loving you, you're loving me, and it runs in that cycle.
Right. So we're all in. We're boycotting Valentine's Day.
Yeah,
you got my vote.
Yeah.
Look, he's like, I'm in. Jesse, are you in?
I have plans.
Oh, Aggie's got plans. That's what it is. Look at him. He's over there. He doesn't want his face on the video camera right now.
It's only been 4 years. You don't have to renew the vows yet.
No.
I'm just kidding.
We're around frog bones.
Oh, well, that's
That's
going to the range.
And eat. Yep.
Okay.
Eat and shoot. I'm good with that.
Yeah.
I'm good with that.
I think Nora's getting me a boat. I'm not 100% sure. I'm fairly confident that there's going to be a boat.
So Chris has been in a long-term struggle for a boat with his wife, and he repeatedly says he's getting a boat. This has been going on for a while now.
No, over a year.
And have yet to see a boat.
Yeah.
Maybe a drawing of a boat. I did try to get her to buy you a Micro Machines boat, and she's like, "Oh my gosh, it's like 2 days before Christmas. Where do I find that?" And I was like, "I don't know, Amazon,
overnight that shit."
Yeah, I mean, how great would it? She'd be like, "I got you the boat," and you walk outside and there's just this little tiny boat in the driveway. I mean, I think that'd be great. What? So what? You're not gonna do anything for Valentine's Day? I'm calling you out right now.
No,
I'm calling you out right now.
No, clearly I will send her something. and now my daughter's 8.5, so I will have to get her something for Valentine's Day as well. So
yeah, I think we do that.
Then she's also 8.5, so I'll have to swing by her school at some point and see what boys are sending her Valentine's cards and make sure they know that her daddy works for the sheriff's office. So just a
be
little
doing
reminder.
that in uniform,
right?
You gotta do what we do. we let Bella watch all those like murder shows. And
Very good.
So Bella's thought process now is I'm never getting married because it appears everybody kills each other. So.
Gosh.
Oh man.
Real love turned to death.
Yeah, she definitely no, but it's cool when we talk about where we're at in different places, because I think a lot of people do feel like you brought it up earlier. It can be a lonely feeling sometimes, especially on holidays like that, where you're like, hey, I've been working, I've been doing this, I haven't had time to have a relationship, I haven't had time to do this because I am a focused father, I am a focused businessman, I do have to put food on the table, I do have to put a roof over my head. And that day comes, it gets to be Valentine's Day, and they're like, cheers, have my glass of wine. Just another day. I don't think I'm going to look at Facebook or turn on the Hallmark Channel today, because that's the last thing I need to watch.
But it is just another day. It's just Thursday. I mean, but whatever.
It's the symbolic nature of it, Christopher.
That's right. So we need to create a holiday. Make sure we put out a product with it, some sort of greeting card, and then we can just make a crap load of money that way.
What would be a good holiday?
I'm not going to say it on the podcast, because then somebody else that's smarter than us will steal it.
Lord Cardinal Day.
Right.
That'll be what it'd be.
That'd be pretty cool.
It would be. We'd all watch wrestling all day long.
And drink natty ice.
Oh,
It's just,
oh my God.
He choked just
I
then.
did. I was like, ugh. I mean,
It was a beer flavored water.
yeah, I know. See, Mike's even upscale. He's drinking Fiji water today, so
I know.
he's
Oh,
like
yeah.
next level.
Oh yeah.
he's from Cocoa Beach, so
Oh, when in doubt, pinky out. So Mike and I had a conversation last night, and it definitely had me thinking the rest of the night. It was one of those quick text conversations that wound up him going at midnight, going, "I'm tired, I'm an old man, I gotta go sleep."
I can't even hold my eyes open.
Yeah. But we were talking about, we both grew up in the music scene around here. Jesse, you may not look at Jesse, but Jesse has some old school punk rock to him.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like, you wouldn't think that, Mr. Real Estate, but he definitely has some old school punk rock to him. And growing up around this area, we had a great scene for a while.
Oh yeah.
And that all kind of fell off, and I think there's a lot of people that want to see that come back. And we were talking about Cameron last night and people that are trying to do that. There used to, I'm a big supporter of music. I think not only is it a great way of self-expression, but it's kind of something I've always tuned into. Different types of music over time. Chris,
I listen to music.
Chris, no, what do you listen to?
Country. I was listening to Pearl Jam on the way in.
Dude, what do you work out to?
Parkway Drive.
Yeah, Parkway Drive.
Parkway Drive.
Anything loud.
Anything loud, yeah.
Avenged
Right.
Sevenfold.
Yeah, that's dude.
Yeah.
Yeah. So one day, Chris and I had a conversation, and God rest Chester Bennington's soul. Chris is texting me, and he's like, "Hey, the new Linkin Park's pretty good." I'm like,
No. I texted and said, "Do you remember when Linkin Park used to be good?" And you texted back going, "No, they never were."
It's so weird that individuals like us that grew up like involved in the local scene and the music, we're all into more of this underground thing, and when something's on the radio we immediately lose respect. But it's like they've made it.
Yeah.
Like, we should have more respect for this
Bro.
band that's just made it to the top. But we're like, oh, it's sellouts.
Dude, bro, the funny thing is, you say that, but I remember when Green Day left Lookout Records and went to like Atlantic or A&M, whatever
Yeah.
they were, and I remember like 15 was so mad because they were like, "Sellouts, you sold out to A&M, like, what are you doing? Look out for life, Meanwhile, Green Day goes on to make billions of dollars in CD sales and everything else.
Yeah.
But like that was the whole thing. Like the whole scene was like, "Oh my God, they sold out." If you're not on Fat Mike Records, Fat Records, you were a sellout.
Yeah.
Like you had to be with No Effects and the rest of the crew.
Yeah.
It was totally different. But even I remember I grew up on like Under Oath. And Under Oath, when I started watching Under Oath, had Dallas singing it, who later went on to Maylene and Sons of Disaster. And it was true, like, hardcore. Like, it was watch your face when you go in, type of thing. And over time, they turned into that fashion hardcore with, like, the long black hair. Dallas left the band. All the dudes, like Octavio, left the band. And then now it's, like, what it is today. Totally different. Norma Jean, same way. I mean, these were guys that were, like, the super tough ones that kind of...
Yeah.
slowly went with that. And as soon as they did, as soon as like some of the key players left the bands, we're all like, no way, man, they're done. No more for me, you know. No more Dallas, no more Under Oath, you know. It was crazy, but you know, we had a couple of good venues here, and I got to see.
We had a lot of good venues here.
Yeah.
We had the Tab in Melbourne. We had there was a few places in Merritt Island with Ground Zero.
Oh, dude, I saw Hot Water Music at Ground Zero with
Yeah.
discount on the floor, and there was like 50 people in the place.
Hardcore bands used to travel through Brevard a lot.
Yep.
Back in the day, like late 90s, early 2000s, it was definitely a thing.
I saw him at Hustler.
Hustler.
Oh my
yeah.
God.
Yeah.
That was a huge venue.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
The
I got
place-
so many fights at the Hustler.
The place that's now the Discount Auto Parts, whatever. At
Oh,
Aurora
the
and
Asylum.
Wickham.
When it was
Yeah.
the I saw Offspring
Yeah.
there when it was the Asylum. They
Yeah.
were playing for like $5. It was like nothing. It was when they were touring with Smash.
Oh,
And-
okay.
yeah.
Oh, wow.
So like it was that first year where they became like the first independent band to sell that many records or CDs, whatever you want to call them. And we went and saw them for like $5. We saw Sublime play at freaking Groove Tube, you know,
Oh, yeah.
before they were anything. Tony Solon, if you're listening, Tony Solon, you know, because Tony was a big part of that. He interviewed all those guys back then when he was working at the Groove Tube. There was major bands that toured through this area. We just don't see that anymore. We see the same 5 bands cycle through Cocoa Beach, but that's about it.
Well, and now you got the Riverfront Park, and you've got, you know, they're basically like Duderman's kind of running like the larger productions with those bigger bands coming through, Revolution and all of that, you know, and you got the island music pretty much, or you know, they call it the white boy reggae, you know, kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
it's all-
Duderman needs to bring back Pennywise like he did a couple years ago, and Bad Religion.
And Duderman's all about punk. Like
Yeah.
he comes from all that. You know, I've been to plenty of like hardcore shows where he was like, and when he owned the Chili Pepper, like
Oh my
that,
God.
I've seen some crazy bands there at the Chili Pepper.
We had not Agnostic Front, but the Agent Orange.
Oh, you had Agent Orange play there?
Yeah, I actually got a video of it.
Oh,
That's
nice.
crazy.
Yeah, it's on YouTube.
But you know, it's funny because those all.
The Queers are coming to Iron Up Post.
Oh,
Really?
really?
Yeah.
That's weird.
They were supposed to be here a
That's
couple
weird.
months ago playing with
Right.
I just had it in my head before I spouted out an old ska band. They were out at the port.
Not
Come
super.
back. No. Crap. Well,
Oh man.
yeah.
Not Boss Tones.
No, not Boss Tones. They did Sellout.
Oh, Real Big Fish.
Yeah. They were supposed to be here, and that somebody got all up in arms, I think, because of the name, and so they they backed out.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, but it was fun back in the day. Is like people went to shows and we had fun. It was all about the unity. It was about the original punk scene, you know, which was kind of looking out for each other, taking care of community, all those things. Then it all kind of fell apart and it went to that 888 hate crap, and you know you couldn't even go to a show. I tried to bring back shows a few years ago, probably 7 years ago, and I did it for probably about 8 months. But I mean, it was I didn't stop doing shows because I didn't like doing the music. I stopped doing shows because it was the crowd. I mean, it got to a point where people weren't showing up for the bands; they were showing up for the fight, and I'm like, that's not what
Yeah.
music's about, you know. I mean,
Sneaking weapons in and stuff like that. And,
oh yeah.
yeah.
Oh yeah, I mean, gosh, I mean, I remember when that became like the thing, like, oh, we'll go brass knuckles. We're like, come on, man, we're just going to watch music, and you guys want to fight all the time, you know? It's not about all that, you know. But we were talking about Cameron last night and him trying to bring it back at his place.
Yeah, that place is going to be. I think he's got a really good chance if he's reaching out the way that he used to and really trying to promote these bands to come back through and pick up on original talent again, local bands. That's all he's welcoming is just his whole new establishment is going to be based around, you know, food, music, and art. And,
That's awesome.
yeah, and he's got artists from all over the county donating artwork and painting and stuff inside, and then he's got a huge double garage area out in it's where 321 Local was.
Oh yeah.
So he bought out that whole corner though. He's got the restaurant and bar side, and then he's got like this almost like little library lounge area where they're going to be doing stand up and things like that. But then you're going to have more your larger music stuff, the bigger stuff out in that garage bay area, you know. And
You know, I've noticed there's a lot of bands that are either reforming into new bands or whatever that are coming back. The lead singer from A Rockin' Horse Winter, she just joined up with a couple of guys that were like, they're all friends with Dashboard Confessional and all that.
Oh, okay.
And Dashboard's actually now pushing this new band called A Darling Fire, and they just got done recording. But they're from South Florida. They're already looking for touring. There's a lot of bands that are looking to tour.
Yeah.
That could come through here. It's funny because the older generation, our generation, we want to go watch the talent.
Yeah.
You know, when I went and watched Hot Water Music a couple of months ago with Gish, it was a good time. Like, nobody was being a jerk. Everybody, I mean, whatever the club is over there in Orlando, was packed out. You know, packed out.
Social
Was packed out, and nobody was being a jerk. Everybody was just hanging out and watching the music, and the skill to the. I mean, these guys are legendary, you know, in our scene, and it was cool. There was none of this negativity. Everybody was there just to have fun and watch the show.
Yeah.
It's cool that Cameron's trying to bring that back here, you know.
Yeah. And he's got a lot of connections. I mean,
Yeah, gosh, he's been in the scene.
Preferred 53, Boys Go to War, and he started a lot of bands, like helped friends, you know, Thinking of Amy.
Oh my gosh, you bringing back like Micah and all those guys.
Yeah. And then you know, you had Local Porn Star and you know, Talent Scam and all them, and they were all like a really tight knit community that branched out everywhere that they went. Though they tore up like the East Coast, and they go like up Florida, and they just find all these other little bands and pull them in, and then next thing you know, the scene's like flooded around here. Like, people love coming to the East Coast. Like, it's a nice area down here, and it's fun, you know, to play out in these areas. But it's just most places don't want that anymore.
No,
For whatever reason, they don't want the big sort of. I mean, the crowd can get a little intense because it's just. The people that are into that music, they're not just sitting there. We're not just chatting over a beer and stuff like that. They're there to watch the music.
Yep.
So they're standing around that stage. They're like getting into it. You know, we're moshing, you know, whatever. And most venues aren't set up for that anymore.
No, I mean, I think the one that was set up the best was back in the day when they had Fat Cats, which is now Meg O'Malley's.
Yeah.
And that place was awesome. I mean, I saw, Lagwagon, No Use for Name. I mean,
Oh, man.
major touring bands came through there. And it was a good time. You know, you went there, the room was set up right. There was nothing else in this room but a stage and speakers. I remember there was a couch in the back, and those were usually for like the people that would just like go pass out or whatever. But the whole place, you'd fit 300 people in there.
And you sell beer in plastic cups for $2.
Yeah.
And make a killing.
And that's really all it was. It had a crappy bar with some crappy bar food. And I don't even think they had tables. I mean, they maybe had 2 tables on the inside. It was all pool tables. Yeah. Everybody just ate at the bar. And I got to tell you, and I probably went there 3 times a week to watch shows because they had shows almost every night.
Yeah.
And I don't think the only time I went into the area where the actual bar was to buy merch, to buy some band's shirt, you know. The rest of the time you go in the little side room that used to be over there, watch a show and have a good time. But I mean, I met people that I'm still friends with. I still hang out with, you know, that, you know, thanks to, social media helps out in that way. People, you know, obviously grow and they go different paths in their lives, move different places. But there's people that I hung out with all over the state that, you know, I met at shows of Fat Cats that we're still buddies, you know. My buddy TJ, who I've done several charity events with, TJ and I could go back to the Tab days to, you know, throwing shows there and jumping around like a bunch of fools and, you know, sweating our butts off and trying not to pass out in a room that's made for like 150 and you got 300 people in there. Yeah. You know, how that floor didn't fall out, I don't know. But, you know, times have been changing. You know, it's funny because
I just think, you know, just to derail for that a little bit, like the same subject, but to think that I don't have some sort of communicable disease from how close quartered we were, sweating our asses off, bleeding.
Oh, yeah.
And just being all like in a tight knit, like, I mean, I'm rubbing my face on someone's arm or armpit, you know, just going nuts. I just, as much fluid was exchanged back then. It's just, I don't understand how I'm as healthy as I am now.
No,
I came out of that shit alive.
Yeah, it was totally different, man. It was totally different. Now, I tell you what, you know what killed the scene? We talked about it a little bit last night. Was like the fashion punk era, where everybody started like going to the Gap and buying their jeans and like showing up. It's like 150 degrees in this, and they're walking in jean jackets and with like 2 shirts underneath, and I'm like, this is crazy. I'm like, I was used to cutting off a pair of, you know, shorts or whatever, get your Dickies and throw your Dickie shorts on and your new era hat, and when you put your hat on backwards, you better. It's time to go. It's time to go.
Yeah.
You know. But it was fun. I mean, if people fell, people got helped up. There was no running over and trying to kick somebody
No.
while they were down, you know?
It's definitely a big family.
Yeah, no, and I mean that there's a lot of people that needed that. You know, I look back at quite a few kids that, you know, throwing shows for as long as I threw shows, and that was like their home. They didn't have a home, you know, and it was a big impact on them. You know, and I think a lot of what we were doing back then had to do with community, raising canned foods, donating the money to different things. It wasn't about the leadership keeping the cash, the people who were booking. It was about paying the bands, having them get their message. But that was another big thing that died off, was the message.
Yeah.
You know, the bands started playing. They just started playing songs to play songs. There was no message. There was no meaning. There was no cause. And a lot of the original punk bands, even ones like Rise Against that are still together, Propagandhi, they were all about putting out information and helping, you know, to make people knowledgeable rather than just going around and just being stupid, you know.
Screaming a bunch of crazy shit.
You know, I remember one day somebody had put out this flyer, put out this email that we had gotten, and it talked about, you know, straight edge was a gang. And like me, I was like, guys, straight edge is not a gang. Straight edge is just it's a belief system, you know. And I mean, I grew up, I mean, I still don't drink. I'm 40 years old. I don't drink, you know. But that was the people that I associated with, you know. They were all the straight edge kids, you know. Their mindsets were no drugs, no alcohol. You know, I wasn't part of the vegetarian aspect of it. Like when they kind of took it to the next level when they were like, we're all going to be plant-based. And I was like, whoa, guy, I'm a straight edge to a point. But when it comes to steak, I'm not giving it up. You know, I mean, I don't drink. I don't do drugs. I mean, be happy about that, you know. I'm one of the few over here in the scene right now, you know. But I remember, I think that scene was the first place that I really saw, you know, either the two sides of life, the side of the clean life and the side of the not so sober life, you know. And I saw a lot of my friends do that. Quite honestly, there's several of them that are no longer with us because they've OD'd, committed suicide, whatever happened with them, they just fell off the face of the earth. Quite a few that are living homeless, that are just, they went down that side of it. I went down the other side of it, the people that were kind of clean, wanting to do things for the community. I think there's a lot of servant leadership mentality that went along with that punk scene that, you know, we don't see anymore. You know, now it's, you know, very basic 4-chord BS, you know. But, you know, it's just times have changed.
Yeah, I think it's still out there though.
I do too, and I think it can be brought back.
I think that's another thing. There's just too many of those kids that have that talent, have nowhere to go to do it, and they don't have. Maybe it's not even the resources or whatever. Maybe they're just too involved with social media, or they're gaming, or doing whatever else, rather than, because let's be honest, like most of us musicians were kind of nerds growing up, you know, like
I didn't tell you about it. It was awesome.
Like,
were you actually a musician or just like a roadie?
I was a little bit of all things back then, but
So
I was.
what
I would never.
can you play?
I learned how to play the bass. I was never good. I got to like 4 chords, and that was pretty much the extent of it. Which means I could play almost every pop punk song that was ever written because they're all like basic 4-chord. But you know, that was it. That's as far as I got.
So classifying yourself as a musician?
No. I would never really say
that
I
could
was
be me. I think I'm just sort of throwing him into that.
All right.
Yeah. I would never classify myself. I was the guy who booked the shows. I was the guy who would book the bands. I toured with different bands, so I was making a lot of connections so I could bring them in. Back then, we didn't have social media, so everything was done by email. So I'd always walk around with like my planner, writing names down on my composite notebook. You know, hey, what band are you? You know, do you want to come to Melbourne? Do you want to do this? And, you know, booking shows like that. For, you know, roadieing with a bunch of different bands over time. You know, I met people in Lakeland, Ocala, Atlanta, North Carolina, South Carolina, because it was mainly East Coast stuff.
Right.
And a lot of times people were trying to come to Florida, but Florida's one way in, one way out. So you have to figure out a way to book them in and book them out. Otherwise, they don't want to come. So there was like 4 or 5 venues that I would work with that were throughout the state. And so I could book somebody from Jacksonville to Melbourne to West Palm, Fort Pierce type of area, across the state to Lakeland, Polk County area, to Tampa, and then they would go out. But as long as they had 3 shows coming in, they didn't care. But a lot of bands, that was the biggest issue is, hey man, if we're not flying in, it's not worth it for us, because By the time we drive down, it'll take us a day to get there and then a day to get back out. So the big thing was having the connection to be able to book people in and people out. And so a lot of the people I was dealing with, they had the same thing. They were going, they were like, hey, do you have this date open? Because I'll send you this if you can send me that. And we just kind of supported the scene. I remember the Vero Beach Women's Club. I can't remember the dude's name that used to run that. Yeah. But there were times where I would be able to book a show here. And obviously Vero Beach is like, 40 minutes away. It wasn't a big enough space. But there were times that the venue that I was going to use wasn't available. So I would say, hey, do you want so-and-so? And they'll come down and play for you. And, it worked out, but it was all about kind of keeping that scene. It wasn't about making the cash. It was about the movement.
Yeah, like the JCs and all that stuff.
JC's was like right as I was leaving that type of scene. Like, we had EGCC, we had the Tab, we had like, those were like the main places. And then obviously if it was like a bar show, it would be like the Hustler or Sports Page or some crap like that. Remember down in Palm Bay, there's a place called Stampede?
Heck yeah.
No. You remember Stampede? Bro,
it's a bingo hall now.
Yes. I saw Blink-182 play there when they released Cheshire. Like, they hadn't even hit yet. Oh, wow. And it was like one of those shows where they were selling their own merch. Yeah, no, it was stupid. Yeah, like I saw Suicide Machines there and all sorts of those guys that were playing $5 a show to get in. But that was like, I have no idea who booked those shows. I never knew who the guy was, but he maybe booked like 10 shows. But every single show was like a major show.
Right.
And that actually just brings me to the next point, is the reason why I think a lot of these were such a good success or were so like fruitful back then, was because they were governed by nothing. The establishment or the owner of the establishment was never there.
Yeah.
There was like a guy, like maybe like yourself, that was running around just sort of trying to make sure it was an organized bit of chaos. But for the most part, it was just, we all went there and supported each other, and just, if shit went down, we handled it.
Yeah.
It's
funny you say that, because I remember, you always had that one or two guys that had the respect from the scene. And like at shows, if I was throwing the show and people started to act up, I could literally walk over there and be like, no. And they'd go, all right, cool, we're cool, bro. And like they'd keep walking. But they were so afraid of me.
So now you're Dikembe Mutombo?
No.
So you've taken over Puerto Ricans, and now now you're Dikembe.
Dikembe, no. But it's funny because there was like this
You're
sense
gonna get
of
us
respect.
kicked off of every platform.
What are you talking about?
Cultural appropriation, man. You're getting us.
I can't do much. I don't
No,
know. I
you can't.
You know what's funny is you said that, and I was like, oh, the basketball player. Like I had to like dial it back. You're throwing different things out to me. I remember 80s wrestlers. And pretty much hockey players across the board, and like the 1990s New York Yankees. Other than that, I'm pretty much done.
That's just from his Topps trading.
Yeah, that's it. Like if you want to come in and see my collection, I'll show you my collection.
Then somehow you can pull a Edgar Allan Poe freaking poem off the top of your head.
Well, here's the retarded thing about this, right?
Did you write it in a card
brain,
for Maria for
in my brain, right?
Valentine's Day?
There's one thing I can tell you. My head. You know how my head works. My head works differently.
No, nobody knows. Right?
Okay, so I'm good with that. I've taken a lot of hits to the head over the year, and I think that's kind of what makes me do the things I do. But also, we talk about the scene. I definitely took a lot of hits in the head during the scene. But we were kind of brought up under a mindset of leadership. We didn't realize we were coming up under that mindset of leadership. And I think that impacts a lot of how we do things. We talked about, growing up, how you wanted to things that may have happened in your life you wanted to do differently or whatever. Keep that family unit together, whatever. It's all part of that leadership mentality. We discuss leadership all the time because we're constantly developing. And one of the things we feel for this community, one of the reasons why we do this podcast is we're trying to establish guys like you to take that role, to be that guy, to give you a face, because you have a story and you are the story that a lot of people have. Mm-hmm. So why not give you a platform to do it? Because this is, it's huge. You're always on social media, people know you as Mike Bush Tattooer,
right?
But they don't know.
See, I don't have as much of a presence. Like, for example, my boss, Mark Longnecker. He's been on, national television. He's been on a big show. People have. Is that a train? Mm-hmm. Man, I could feel that.
I know, that was awesome.
I was like, maybe we're getting some frequencies.
I know, Chris was like, Tremors.
I think the shuttle's going
up. What a great movie.
Yeah. But I don't put myself out there as much, and I'm not on. He's constantly, has, he's running his stories constantly, so he has, people get a real feel into his life, where I find myself not doing that as much, where I feel like maybe I should, I don't know, but like I just tattoo. I tattoo, and then I lead my normal life. I like to put social media really on the back burner. Like, I honestly, I don't like social media, guys. I'm sorry. Like, I just don't.
Social media is a
But it
necessary
pays my
evil.
bills.
Yeah,
But
it's a necessary
my bills, even my bills.
Your bill-
Bills and my bills.
I know. What nationality is that, Chris? That you're coming out? What's a Beal? You know.
Yeah.
But
That's just a misstep of how
I just got Jessica Biel on the mind. I just watched the new Netflix series last night. So.
But you're right.
It's necessary, because without Facebook and Instagram, I would be fishing for work. I would just be waiting for things to come in and off the street, and it's definitely gotten me to where I'm at now, and so yeah, I'm thankful for social media, but I just I only have like this one persona. I'm just the tattoo artist. They see pictures of my kids and stuff, and they assume that I'm a good father or whatever. And
but doing platforms like this, gives all of us a voice. Like, you tell your story. You're a dude that's worked hard. You run you work for somebody, but you're a chair. You have to be successful in that chair. If you're not successful in that chair, Mark's going to be like, you got to find somebody else to fill that chair. So I could tell you over the last several years of watching you, your skills as a tattoo artist, have continually grown. You're always developing yourself. You're always looking at new stuff. A lot of the guys that I know that are good artists will go train under somebody or mentor under somebody or pay attention to what people are doing. I know for a while sometimes you'll do videos and you'll do things like that, and there are other people that watch that. That is a leadership role in your field, and those are all good things. There's there's things in Chris's life that I really admire, but like
yeah, there is.
I went ding. I just don't. I get you can lift up a car.
Yeah.
I do admire the fact that you can lift up a car. That is pretty important.
That's
like
impressive, actually.
Yeah, because I pretty much know if I'm ever trapped under a car, I'm going to be like, call Chris. Like that's it. But
unless it's my kid under there, I'm not picking that car up.
yeah, exactly. But it's different. We focus on leadership. We talk about. I think a lot of that came from the scene for me. There were things that I felt confident in, but I didn't know how to express it. And for me, being able to hold shows and do that was the bands I was picking were giving a message. It was a message of positivity, of community, of development, trying to teach kids, hey, this, you can do this too if you want to focus your brain. But I think a lot of things people don't realize is guys like Henry Rollins, guys like a lead singer of Bad Religion. These are all guys that have extreme knowledge. The lead singer of Bad Religion has a doctorate and teaches at UCLA Berkeley. Henry Rollins, I think he's got a doctorate. He's got a master's at least. Mm-hmm. He's like, the guy's super smart. But these are all people that, that was the scene we grew up in. You were always kind of making yourself more knowledgeable. It wasn't just the stupidity of some of the stuff that's on, the radio today or through some of the scenes people that we see. And I think, I know you're a knowledgeable dude. Jason Tucker is a very knowledgeable guy. Here's a dude that, Jason reads all the time. It's all about trying to develop yourself. And I think that's one of the big points for today is you can be a single parent. You can be an everyday guy who goes to work, or everyday woman who goes to work. You can be that person and still take on a leadership role, whether it's in your personal family life or in the whole grand scheme of things, because family leaders are needed. Yeah. When you coach, when you do different things along those lines, making sure you attend your kids' stuff. If your kid's got to play at school, make sure you're there. I know Chris, like I said, is very big on making sure he's there for whatever his kids are doing. But it doesn't matter if you come from a 2-parent household or you have a 2-parent household or your parents are separated or you're a separated couple. You have that role to be a leader, and you can accept that in whatever way you want. You can either be depressed that you're a single parent and glom on it all the time and post on social media about how life is changing for you, but it never changes. You've been saying the same thing for 7 years. Or you can take those steps in your life to help develop and better. Yeah. Like I said, I know Chris and I are both very big on the family thing. One of the reasons why we do the podcast is because we want to put that emphasis on the family, bringing it back to the family. And not only just the blood family, but the community family. And I know, one of the reasons when we talk, I mean, we've had numerous conversations over the years, which is one of the reasons why, I wanted you to come on here. There's a lot that goes on in people's lives, and you can be that leader if you're willing to accept that role. And
Yeah.
It's
And no matter where you're at in your life too, there was another, like, it's sort of recent affairs, and I don't know how much time we really have left, or how far this will go, but
My stomach's starting to grumble, so we're getting
you're
close.
getting
Alright.
close. But
Yeah.
well, basically,
go
to
ahead
touch
with
on
it.
Tell your story, but-
you're talking about leadership and being this sort of person, and no matter what has gone on in your life, you have the ability to sort of come up out of whatever it is, or just follow that path. If you've been given a silver spoon sort of path, then you just sort of do whatever you need to do to maintain that and run that life. Or if you've been in the gutter and you've been alone and you've been addicted to whatever, it is really all about that personal will and that personal, you just that need to either give back or just give to yourself, like, wholeheartedly. Because I've just my ex, for example, I'm just bringing my ex into this situation because the last year of my life was a big mess. She suffers with from addiction, and it's with alcohol and pills and some other substances, and it got pretty bad. I left her because of it. Not that I just was like, oh, I can't deal with this and just walk away from it. I tried because I loved her, I cared about her, I wanted to make her better, I wanted to help her, I wanted to be the support system. But I've never known or been close to an addict, or had, I don't know what the properties were, and how to help someone like that, except for show them love and support and try to just keep their mind away from it or whatever. But it just got to where it was all behind my back and things like that. And she's tried to stay clean and stay in the facilities, things like that. And it literally took like one motivational video that was like 20 minutes long that I sat with her and watched, that was just about had speakers from all over the world just talking about this personal drive and being able to rise up out of anything and be able to overcome. And then she next day was in a rehab facility and like starting to try to come back around, and she's still got battling her own demons, and we all go through those things, but it's that personal, it's that there's a fire in everybody. It's just a matter of
bringing it
up and finding where that fire is, to like lead by example, and for us family men with kids and things like that, to be able to lead by example for them to see that anything's possible, no matter where you come from, what hardships you've had in your life, and no matter how low you think you are, that next step is always, it's one step up.
It's, we always talk with addiction and stuff, because that's a big thing that I deal with at work. Is people are always like, how do I help this person? How do I help this person? You can only lead a person to water for so long. They have to make that conscious decision that they need help, that they want help. Yeah. And it goes back to the thought process of you define you. I can't define you. I can't define Chris. I can't define Mike. I can't define Jesse. I can only define myself. And that comes through action, through attitude, through perseverance, through how you define yourself as a human being. And with the struggle with addiction, there's a lot of people that they've accepted that that's who they are, and that's not who they are. Addiction is a plague that's on you that you need to shake off. Yeah. And you, with taking that role on of leadership and doing everything that you did for her, and you continue to do, obviously that's the mother of your child, so you care. Things Jesse does by having the podcast studio, the things Chris does by making sure he's at every single one of his kids' events, the things I do in different ways, those are all things that are defining us. And, as we end the show, we just want to thank you for coming on today, spending time with us.
Thanks for having me.
And everybody listening. Like I said, we know we had some audio difficulties up front, but we got it all fixed up now. And welcome to the new podcast studio. We will see you guys next Sunday.